Hello, Kim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm sorry about that. I was just trying
No
to
worries.
get to my car. Thank you for taking my call and setting this up for me. I just wanted to get. I'm trying to find a place to transfer some of my money to, and I just wanted to find. I'm relocating to the area within the next 6 months, and just interested in what types of financial products you had and what you sort of offered.
Okay. Well, and you live in Louisiana right now?
Right now I'm in New York. My cell phone is the Louisiana number, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, because I saw the Louisiana number. So,
Yeah.
what are you looking for? What are you looking for in the way of an advisor? I mean, can you tell me what you're kind of looking for?
Yeah, I have a strange situation. And I just ended a long-term relationship that was not a legal, it was not a divorce. It was sort of a common law relationship, but and received I guess you'd call it sort of a settlement. So I want to transfer that money out of where it's held right now, and I'm looking for stuff that I can, both long-term and short-term. I would love to be able to have some type of investment where I could, there could be some type of dividends or income or something like that in part of it, and then the rest sort of a longer-term situation. I'm, in my early 40s, so I'm sort of resetting, I guess you'd call
Yeah.
it, without going into details, but and that's where I am. So if I sound a little frenetic, that's what's going on. So
No, not at all, not at all. So, and I've heard these types of situations before, so it's not
okay,
uncommon. But
okay,
well, why don't I just tell you right now a little bit about what we do, and then are you moving to North Carolina? Is that where you're moving to?
yeah. I do marketing, and right now we're setting up a shop near RTP, like in the Durham area. So
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, you'll love it here. I'm from Philadelphia area originally, and
oh, okay,
I love
yeah.
North Carolina, and I think it's great. Are you originally from New York, or are you originally from
I
Louisiana?
am.
Or?
Yeah. No, I'm from the New York area, and I got to get out. So
Yeah.
I just have to get out. Yeah. So I'm resetting everything, and
Well,
basically starting from starting over in every sense of the word. So
well,
yeah. So I'm excited for the weather. I'm excited for that type of stuff. So I'm looking forward to starting over.
Good. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about our company first, and then I'll tell you some things that I think that, for me to be able to tell you whether or not it's a good fit, I
Sure.
need to know a little bit more information too as well.
Yep.
I worked for a publicly traded company for a number of years called SCI Investments out of Philadelphia. In 2005, I launched my company called Vision Quest Wealth Management that was focused on wealthy families, and the role that I played was one of personal CFO. That was kind of how I branded ourselves, and I would tell you that one of my clients really helped me with that. In the industry, it's the model that I kind of replicates more of a family office type of model. But nobody really knows what a family office is, so I
know
went
exactly
through
what a family office is.
Okay, good. So
yeah.
that's basically I created this model because it's kind of I felt the clientele that I wanted to serve was kind of a one-stop shop type of environment. So unlike what you were just describing, like where you're like, what product do you sell to a certain extent? That's not really kind of how we work, because I really don't sit here and try to sell a particular product. I try to understand what the client's trying to accomplish, because I believe that there's multiple ways for how they can accomplish the goal. The other aspect of it is I try not to just be an investment guy. There's plenty of good investment people, and if you're just looking for investments, I certainly can, go down that path with you. But because of the model that I've created, I try to look at it in the context of I don't know how people manage their investments without, like the example you're talking about. I'm assuming that maybe the amount of money that's coming is in the form of non-qualified money. So I don't know how you would manage that money without looking at the tax ramifications of it, right? I mean, it's not just purely investing; it's about looking at the total financial picture and what's entailed to that. So,
Right.
so my viewpoint on it is that what we're really trying to do for families is create something I call financial wellness, and it's really about something that most of the time people don't articulate. People would normally come to you when you have a problem, like you. I mean, right now you're I mean, your problem's different, but most times when people are looking to make a change, it's because something is going on in their life, whether or not positive or negative, and they're trying to figure out how they cope with that change. And but the root of it really is balance. What they're trying to do is money is nothing more than an enabler to your life. So what they're really looking for is to create some kind of balance between how their money is going to be utilized to impact the life side of things. And and so that's kind of the art form in which we play in. How we charge, which I think is probably a better question than what kind of products we use, is that we can charge clients a retainer fee up front, which has been my historic model, which is like, here's what I look at your total situation and what you're trying to accomplish, and we spend some time together, and I basically say, for me to take you on as a client, here's a retainer fee. If we manage money, it really depends on how much money we're talking about, but we can range anywhere from 1.5% on the high end to, on the low end, probably 70, 80 basis points, but it really depends on the account size of the individual. What's the amount of money that we're really managing. If clients are under retainers, things like, which is what you talked about, I think through the kind of the internet side of it, or at least that's what I captured, is stuff like estate planning and asset protection planning and all that stuff. That's all included in the retainer fee. In that cost, if there's those types of needs, right? And there will be. I mean, if you're moving from New York, even if you had an estate plan before, and under the circumstances, you're going to want to change those things. I mean, I don't know how your, the beneficiary side of stuff was. Like, let's say, you're still going to be with the same company, but we would look at things like, who are the beneficiaries on your 401k? Is it the gentleman that, you were living with for all those years, or is it somebody else, right? And, we would manage those types of things. We'd make sure you update the estate plan and do this, do those aspects of it. And when you move to a new area, it always needs to be updated to the state in which you're living in. So, we would handle that. Now, there's certain clients that say, listen, what I really want you to do is manage my money. And by the way, I need a will. And can you do that? And can you do a couple other things? And that it can be done. I will also tell you that I think when it comes to a la carte, if you're looking for kind of an a la carte solution and not a kind of more holistic, I could also recommend other people here in the geographical area that you may want to reach out to. If you want just an estate plan, I can recommend a very good estate planning attorney that you can go work with if it's just estate planning. We can help you with these types of things, but what we're really looking for is more of we're less looking for the transactional type of relationship with a client and more on the client for life type mentality. We're going to be handling all their financial affairs. And we've been pretty good at that. It doesn't matter whether or not clients move or change jobs or any of those things. We have a pretty good track record of retention of keeping clients, on board.
Are most of your clients in the area? Are they all over?
I got a good amount all over. We have an office in Charlotte, we have an office in Richmond, and we have an office in Raleigh. I'm headquartered in Raleigh, and but we're not a very big firm. In fact, Stanley, I'm trying to scale down the firm a little bit because I feel as if I know this sounds funny, but we've been doing a lot of acquisitions over the last probably 2 or 3 years. In different locations, and when you do that, it's great because you get good growth. But the part that you struggle a little bit with is some of the clientele that you've taken on through acquisition isn't necessarily clientele that you really want to have.
Sure.
And so
you have to take the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, and I've learned that not all revenue is good revenue, right? There's certain clients that it's better for me to. I think it'd be better for me to help them find the right type of advisor for them than it would be and leave leave gracefully on good terms. I think those are the
Sure.
things that I think is most important, so that it doesn't impact your brand as you're kind of. I mean, you're a marketing person, so you know this. I mean, it's how to communicate things effectively.
Right.
And so
Your brand is everything, and you
yeah,
have to maintain that brand equity. Yes.
yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.
So
Yes.
and we've always had this kind of mindset that we're not for everybody, but I'm starting to feel like we are, right? And that's why it's kind of like I'm not sure that's what I really want long term, right? So I think we're trying to scale back and find the right type of clientele for us going forward. So
Right.
anyway, that's
Well,
kind
I
of
understand what you mean by family office, because I've had some experience in that industry, and it's you are kind of everything to that one particular amount of money. Like you're their
yeah,
estate. You're also making aggressive investments for them on their behalf. You're also maybe doing some, you're trying to balance their whole life for legacies and such. And I understand, and I'm looking at what I'm dealing with now. I'm trying to find. I'd love to find a place where there's a little bit more personal service. I was with a private client service of a major, commercial investment bank for a number of years, and I'm trying to pull back from that a little bit and work with somebody that can sort of understand my situation as it's not your typical situation. It's not like I have, I'm just kind of rejiggering my finances. It's now I have to figure out what to do with, this amount that I have, and how to, is there a part of that I could actually, live off of in a sense, that could remain fairly liquid, or is there, and what part can grow, and I'm looking at the big picture now from all different angles, and wanted to find a couple places that I could talk to that could potentially give me that more personal service, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
yeah. When you look for personal services, though, what are you really looking for? Is it just the investments, or is it really the whole financial picture for you?
Well, for the beginning, it's probably the investments, but overall, yes, overall financial picture.
Okay.
I'm concerned initially with putting the sort of, I would not call this a windfall, but I have a sum of I have some funds now that are very liquid, that I need to put someplace, not a account, and be able to see if I can grow that independent of, my salary and the 401k that I've amassed. And I want to be able to take this and be able to sort of do something positive with it. But yes, I would also want to factor everything else into the bigger picture. So I guess I didn't really answer your question because I'm answering it as both. So.
Yeah, it's okay. I understand. Can you tell me, like, when you come down here and you move, are you going to buy a house? Are you going to rent? Are you, what's your plan, and how do you feel like the capital that you have right now is going to play into that for you too as well?
I'm looking for, I'm probably going to rent while I figure out where I want to be exactly. But I'm certainly looking to buy, and part of that, I'm well in a position to be able to buy something in that area, as part of this capital that I have. But it's an amount that I'm not used to dealing with. It's a low 7-figure amount that I have now, sort of as a almost like a one lump sum amount that I want to be very careful with, but also want to see if I could be able to generate, money begets money, right? So I want to be able to see if I could work with somebody that could introduce me to ways that I could, grow that independent of, like I said, my career outlook and all that other kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I want to be careful with it. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that was it.
Okay. What I was going to ask is, do you see it as something where you want the money to produce a certain level of income on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis for you, or are you really just trying to grow it for capital appreciation, or a combination of both? I mean, and if it's a combination of both, have you kind of started to work out a map of what you need this money to produce an income for you to supplement your salary?
I'd say it's a combination of both. I haven't really. I've thrown a couple things together on paper, but I'm not. I'm not sure that my math is exactly right. But if there was some portion of that could generate some type of income, like quarterly dividends or something like that, where there's actual cash being generated, that would be a big plus. But I also want to keep a portion of that into maybe more conservative things that could just grow over time, over the next 10 to 20 years. I guess I'd like to have some of that be accessible, and I don't know that I would say I could live off of I could just live off of that, because that's unrealistic. But I'd definitely like to be able to realize some of that I guess money as from on a regular basis, I guess. Does that make any sense, or am I completely unrealistic?
It does. I think, though, that when I think about it, it's like you're trying to understand what you want to supplement. So I think that, when you're looking for something that's income producing, it'd be different. I mean, in a perfect world, like how kind of institutions work, when you're looking at money, you sit there and you're like, they're looking at a time horizon that's very long and, 20 years out, stuff like that. Human beings don't behave that way. And they behave
right.
and they've even trained that way, quarterly or, annually, what have you done for me lately kind of mindset, where institutions don't necessarily play that way. So, what you're trying to do in my role is try to understand, what does success look like in your eyes? And so the way you do that is by understanding more about what that money can accomplish for you. So as I listen to it, it's like, yes, you want to do both, but produce income, and it produces, capital appreciation. Let's just say it's $1 million. If you turned to me and said, Steve, I want to make $100,000 off of that in income every year, how do I go about doing it? I would sit here and tell you that, in essence, you're looking, and by the way, I want to be conservative about it. And you're basically telling me I want to create 10% return, annualized return of income off of it through dividends and some form of income. And I would tell you, and I want it to be conservative in an interest rate world that we're in right now, I would turn to you and say, well, that's going to be challenging to happen to keep it incredibly conservative, right? Because you're going to have some risk on the table to accomplish the goal that you want. And we can talk about what those risks look like, and we can make educated decisions on them, but there will be certainly risk involved in it. And again, we all accomplish risk differently. Like, what's the risk of me losing my total principal? Not. What is my risk of losing 10% in any given year? Possible, right?
Sure.
Is it what happens if I what other risk do I have? Well, you have the risk of not accomplishing $100,000 of income a year because you're not willing to take on those risks, right? Because at the end of the day, you're more conservative than it, so you're not going to accomplish the goal. So how passionate are we about in determining the prioritizations of what we're trying to accomplish? Like, how much income do we need to supplement? Now, I like to take it from a more numbers perspective, which is a challenge right now. We can work through it. We can come up with guesstimates, but it's not going to be real until you make decisions on things like, are you buying a house, renting a house, what's the price of the house, what's the utility bills look like, all this other stuff. Because it's like, I'm pretty confident that if you're going to get the salary that you're getting in New York down here, and you're living in New York comfortably, you will not need to worry about, the money probably doesn't need to produce income. So then I have to look at you and go, are you sure that's what you really meant? Right? And I don't mean that being sarcastic, but a lot of times clients say things, or, potential clients say things, and then when you start to weigh them out, it's like, well, you don't really need the income, right? And all that income would do, or dividends, would mean that you'd be paying taxes on it right now. So
right.
We may want to, what you're really trying to say is that there's a certain level of security that I need to have with the investment, and I want it to grow at a particular type of rate over a set period of time, and have access stability of income. You know, I need flexibility. I need you to build flexibility into it. And that's what I'm really saying to you, Steve. But I don't need a monthly check to show up my door every month because I'm okay, right? Like, so,
Right.
you know, understanding what those real dynamics are, and that's kind of the art form of what I think is so interesting with working with clients. So the methodology of how you go about doing it, you know, the science behind the math and math behind the investment strategies that we deploy. You know, there's some very good, talented people that we work with. I mean, we work with some, you know, amazing money managers that, you know, that do some amazing work for us, right? I mean, they manage big, you know, portfolios, but it's at the end of the day, they're a segment of the total plan that we're trying to create. What I really want to focus on is kind of what does that total plan look like, so that we're making sure that we accomplish not some benchmark relative that's arbitrary and nobody gives a crap about. You know, I mean, like you were in New York. It sounds like you've been there for a while. So in 2008, people are, you know, say, hey, I outperformed the benchmark by 3%. Well, that means I lost 27% of somebody's portfolio. You know, I mean, the market was down incredibly. You know, if you were in the S&P 500 or something along those lines. So it's like, you know, what's the real benchmark? The benchmark isn't an arbitrary, you know, index or something along those lines. It's like, what are we really trying to accomplish in your life? And then how do we get that money to do it? And so that's, to me, I'm sorry, there's a truck going by.
That's okay.
It's, believe it or not, I came outside because this is a little bit different than New York, but, you know, there's a lot of, I'm downtown, so there's lots of little restaurants outside, stuff like that. And it was, the air conditioning in our office was freezing. So I walked outside because Fridays we're not really dressed, we don't really dress up. And again, definitely not a New York, I did when I first moved down here, I was in like braces and a tie and suit. And you're going to find it's incredibly casual down here. Today I'm in jeans and a polo shirt, you know, but either way, I'm still cold.
Well, I don't know if it's hotter here in New York or if it's hotter down there, because it is like almost near 90 right now.
Oh, it's
today.
90 today, so it's warm, yeah. But I'm sitting at one of these like little outside patios right now, and it's just kind of beautiful because there's a nice breeze. And lots of people, it's Friday, so lots of people down here are already on like rooftops drinking beer and having a good time. So
it's 1 o'clock. It's what time is it? It's almost 1:30. I mean, come on, it's almost happy hour.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's you know.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just, you know, trying to you know, calling a couple places, just trying to get a sense of you know, what makes sense for me and how, you know, what I could expect. Like I said, I want to get out of the current situation I'm in. I'm at a bigger private client services at a bank here in New York that and I'm, you know, in terms of my the real estate situation is I'm not selling anything here. I'm just leaving. So I don't have I'm not going to be realizing like cash from a sale of a condo or home or anything. But I have, you know, this financial situation that I'm trying to, you know, deal with one way or the other. And I guess I can't exactly say right now that, I would love, you know, $100,000 a year in income. That sounds great to me. I could really do what I want and not, you know, if that could ever happen, that would be amazing. That'd be unbelievable. And yeah, I just don't know how to parse it out yet. And I thought I had a little experience with it, but I guess I don't have it. It's not my forte. I'm not a finance person at all, but I'm looking for a fit, and I'm looking for options, and I guess that's where I am, and I kind of appreciate what you're saying in terms of taking a harder look at, you know, what we're playing with here and what could be the case, and I understand the concept of the risk, and I definitely don't want to put all this capital towards something that, you know, is a super risky endeavor. It's not just found money that I wanted a casino that I'm happy to lose just as happily as I gained it, but I also don't want it to just to sit in some long-term mutual fund either. I want to be able to have that live off of it, in a sense, really, if it comes down to that.
Well, we can create balance between those things, and then you don't have to take on great amounts of risk to accomplish relatively good returns, but the returns need to be based upon what we're trying to accomplish, not necessarily just some arbitrary number. But why? Because the truth is that if you sit here and say I just want 10%, then it's like, but then you may take on risk in areas that you don't need to. On certain portfolios, some of the market stuff that we did just over the last, I was looking at some performance from clients, this year, and it's kind of a weird situation because I'm sitting there going, hey, we did 14.6% return last year, right? Hypothetically, and they're like, that's awesome. I'm like, we might have taken a little bit too much risk then, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, because the portfolio wasn't designed to do that. It wasn't designed to hit 14.6% return, and they're like, well, what was it designed to do? It's like, we agreed to 8.6 or something along those lines or whatever it was. So, but the truth is that there'll be times when it's down, and there'll be times when it'll be up, and there'll be, and it may even out. Like when we sit here and say it's 8% return and it's supposed to get, nobody ever really hits that number of 8.0000% return. It's always going to be wiggle room on either side. So it's variations of what you're trying to shoot for. And I think the process that we would go through, I think that, I just heard you say a word that I think is really good. It's like trying to kind of help me set my expectations. I think that there's two things that both of us can work on. I think one, you need to have a little bit, and I can help you through this, but obviously there's a lack of independence and objectivity if I'm helping you through this, meaning I certainly help you through it, but there's things that I'll be pointing out, but obviously the way I'm pointing them out is I'm pointing them out because it's obviously that's the way we do things, right? So you need to know there's some certain level of independence and objectivity that will be lacking as we go through it. But my thought is criteria. What are you really looking for? What's your criteria? What is your criteria for an advisor? What are your expectations of them? It's one of the questions I ask right away, is what are you looking for? I think I even started with you. What are you looking for in an advisor? And then I go through a discovery process with clients, right? And normally the discovery process is pretty much free of charge. It's not until we get into the assessment that we start really evaluating. And, I would start sitting here and saying, I'll go through the assessment process with you and, we can roll it into the retainer fee or cost of doing business going forward. But if you decide to go with somebody else and I spend all this time, well, then here's what I'm going to charge to go through the assessment process so that I'm not out, right, as I go forward with it. But
I understand.
The discovery process would probably be pretty beneficial for you. And the discovery process that I go with to help you out is, for me, and again, it sounds like you've visited our website, so you may have heard some of these words before, heard me speak these words before if you've listened to the videos and things like that. But to me, it's about creating vision, values, and goals. Vision is what somebody's definition of success looks like in their eyes. Values is what they truly value, and that is different. That's not goals or it's not a benchmark of success. It's really about them individually. And I'll give you examples as I go through this because it's hard to – you sound like touchy-feely things until somebody puts quantifiable things on them. And then lastly, it's where your goals are. And goals are all not the same. The thing that I struggle and what I found in the industry is that, an advisor asks somebody some goals and they basically go, okay, you said this, so it's a 80-20 portfolio or 60-40 portfolio, and they create some kind of allocation, they move on. I'll walk you through each one of these components. So visions of success. The first question I ask, and it's almost like being a good attorney, you ask the same question multiple different ways and see if you're getting different answers because sometimes clients don't understand it. And they don't even really understand what success looks like in their eyes. So you're trying to make sure, are they clear on this or they're not? And then there's other further questions you can ask off of them. But the first one is, what do you look for in an advisor, or what does that criteria look like? Do you have a criteria? Have you spent time thinking about what that criteria is? What should it be? What are the things that you should be looking for from a criteria standpoint? The second one is, are there any immediate needs? Okay, and most of the time there are. People are moving someplace and they're like, I need a new will, or I gonna go buy a new house, or I got this immediate thing that's making me come to you right now. And the truth is that we can't sit here and talk about 20 years or 15 years, which I don't do anyway. But I mean, you can't talk about long term until you address what's the immediate issue with them, that burning issue, because human beings just can't get off of the fact that they are, my immediate needs in front of me right now. And until you address that, I really can't focus on anything other than that. So I really want to know, what is that, what are the immediate issues that we need to resolve? Have you thought through those? What would those look like, and kind of work through what does 90 days look like? And 90 days from now, how will we know we're successful if we accomplished what for you? What would that look like? Now, that's 90 days. In 1 year from now, it's a great question to ask. I normally ask people, if we're sitting at, a cafe on Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh, on a Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and we're going to drink some beer because it's happy hour, right? So, and we're sitting across from each other, and we're talking about the success that we just had for this year. What would that look like? Define what success looks like in a year from now for me. And I very rarely, maybe you'll be unique in that regard, but I've never had anybody give me a set return. Nobody ever sits there and goes 8%. Nobody ever says that. They basically say things like, well, we've created a strategy for this windfall of money that I've acquired. I feel as if that my life has become a little bit more stable and less, and I'm playing off of things that I've heard you say. I feel like I've secured myself down a little bit more. I know that where I really want to live in the area. I feel like I've integrated with some of the people here and blah, blah, blah. And they go through these things. A lot of them are not money. They're life things that they start talking about, and that's their benchmark of success. And then I ask them, okay, so paint me a picture. What's long-term for you? And I said, but I don't want to go longer than 5 years because too much changes. Our lives are too dynamic. 5 years ago, I bet you were whoever the partner was.
I would have never been talking to someone like
you would have been talking
about to make a major life move.
Exactly. So too much changes during that time period. Life is too dynamic. Too many things are going on. So I said, just paint me a body of motion of what you want it to look like. Where will you have been? What have you done? And people will say stuff from, think about it as an advisor. In many cases, they don't think it has anything to do with money. And they'll say, well, like relative to money. I'm like, no, just in general. And they'll be like, well, I want to have children, or I found another person in my life, or I've done these other things, right? And these are the things that are important to me. Well, okay, so you have children. Awesome, great. Well, you have children. How are you going to plan for their children's education? You're going to update your estate plan. You're going to you know what I'm saying? There's so many things that are financial when these life events occur that if you understand what the body of motion that somebody is trying to accomplish, then you can sit there and say, all right, I got a better sense for this. The value side of it is very unique. I always ask people, what's important about money to you? And that's the question I ask about values. Most of the time people answer that with a goal. They'll say, well, in 10 years from now, I want to retire and I don't have to worry about it. I'm like, okay, that's a really good goal, but that's not the value of money. Well, what do you mean, Steve? Well, for me, Steve Peters, money gives me freedom. It allows me to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And to me, that's very important. I am married. I have been married for 17 years. My wife and I are great partners with each other, but we're different, right? We're different. Right. And my wife would be security. Money allows her to sleep well at night. If we look at the wealth that I've created, we've created balance between these things. I've created wealth and flexibility through the businesses and ventures that I've gone into and invested into. But probably one of our bigger assets is a family farm, because I live on a farm that's only 7 miles from downtown Raleigh. It's pretty unique. It's a 100-acre farm.
That's amazing.
But and if you like horses, it's a horse farm. You can come out and visit it sometime. But
wow.
But my wife, to her, that security is land. Like what it really comes down to is she doesn't understand the stock market, but she does understand that tangible piece of property. Okay.
Right. She can look at the farm and say, "This is security.
That's mine." The market may go up or down, but and by the way, the values of the farm may go up and down, but I don't really care. I don't need to worry about it. I got
it's still mine. It doesn't matter. I get it. Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're trying to understand people's, it sounds very touchy-feely, like what's important about money to you? Well,
Yeah.
by the way, some of it becomes, and again, I'm only hypothetically saying this, most of the people who come out of a moment that you're coming out of right now, okay, really, seriously, it's about financial independence. They don't normally start talking about financial independence in some form. It's when they've gone through a divorce or a separation or they've lost a job, right? And they sit there and go, screw this. Like, I'm never going to be somebody else's person again. Like, corporate America, forget it. You know, I'm not going to get fired from that person. And they have this feeling inside, and what they're really talking about is, I want to be financially independent, Steve. Take my money and make sure that if I ever go through another moment like this again, that I'm not relying upon anybody other than me. That's financial independence, right? And now, the truth of the matter is that people say that their values don't change. They do. Because a lot of times their feelings are predicated upon what's going on in their life. So, you know, when you're younger, you're worried about accumulating and building and growing money. As you get more financially secure, you start to realize that, well, how's this money going to impact others or my family or whatever it may be? And it becomes more about the legacy aspect of the money and less about the the growth, because I'm already there. I'm already accomplished. I already got it. I'm already at that point, right? So my point on this, values do change over time, and so that's important. Goals. And again, I really got this from kind of went to business school at MIT, and there was a great professor there who talked a lot about about supply chain, and it was really about the prioritization of activities going through supply chain. And what I quickly realized was that's the issue that most families have when it comes to their wealth. They treat all goals the same when they're not. So I also have 2 children. So take my daughter. For me, her education's most important, but my wife would sit there and say education is important, but we are going to pay for her wedding, right? Right? Like, so those are things that like in my mind, I would sit there and go, yeah, but if you ask me which one was most important, I could prioritize it for you, you know?
Yeah, right.
Lots of people, by the way, this is most common, and I don't know if we haven't met yet, but, you know, I'm pretty into physical fitness, and people always are like, if I'm in my mid-40s, they're like, Steve, how are you in such good shape? And I'm like, it's not easy. I mean, I work out like a crazy fiend in the morning, and I don't eat bad, right? I mean, I try not to eat terrible, right? And they're like, yeah, you know, it's probably, you know, I don't understand why, you know, I can't lose weight. And I was like, I just saw you eat like McDonald's 3 times this week. I mean, you know, I know why you're not, you know, it's not working for you. You're not.
It's not hard, but it's not prioritized either.
Yeah, it's not prioritized. So
I calendar my workouts in my book because I value it as much as a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment.
Correct. I do
I schedule workouts.
And mine is the first thing. I lived in New York for a little bit. I was on like Prince and Green Street down in the Soho area, but I always found out that you know, New York is normally like after work workouts and then still they're going out afterwards. Like, that always killed me. I'm like a wake up early in the morning, have to go work out kind of bit and just get things done, and then I can enjoy the rest of my day. But if I don't get it done, I always come up with excuses later for why I can't work out, right? It's like, oh, but I got
so easy. I'm the exact same way. I was up at 5:30 this morning and I got my workout in, and then you just feel good for the rest of the day, and then you know you don't have to worry about fitting it in somewhere. Yeah. No, it stresses me out if I miss it. Yeah. The same way, but
but when we sit here and we talk about, you know, making that correlation to working out, I can tell you nearly everybody I sit down with always sits down and goes, Steve, I'm here because I really want you to help me in the future. And I'm like, okay, sounds great. But ultimately, it's like, help me in the future as long as it doesn't affect the way I live currently today. What do you mean? I don't want to go on a diet to make sure that my retirement's beautiful. I want to make sure at the end of the day that I can live the same lifestyle that I have right now, right, and do all the things I've always ever wanted to do. But I want you to grow my wealth, and by the way, I don't want you to do that with any risk. Well, I might as well hang up right now. We might as well hang up, right? Like, I mean, because that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist where it's like, hey, now again, there are there's certain clients that I represent that their resources are that way, where it's like they don't have, they don't have to worry about it. I mean, I have a client who's a really good friend of mine. I always find it funny because they're very green, and they'll call me up and they'll be like, I'm thinking about buying a Prius. What do you think? And I'm like, you could buy the dealership if you wanted to. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, like, of course. I mean, why are you calling me about whether or not you should buy a Prius? I mean, seriously. I mean, but I don't answer it that way. I mean, by the way, I mean, I'm not that sarcastic, but I just kind of find it funny and also a little cute that they call and ask that question, because they have enough money that they don't need to have that kind of conversation with me to make that type of decision. But it's very flattering that they still do. But it's
well, maybe that's how they're so wealthy, is that they are very prudent about their that they want to make sure that before they spend like $40,000 on a car, they clear it with you.
Yeah. And what we've learned is that, I mean, and again, like the interest rate environments right now, we've gotten to the point where I'll guide them on something like a purchase of a car. Is that, the money that you're making right now in some of the areas that you're making wealth in, it doesn't make sense to take the money out when you could go buy that Prius at 1.9% interest financing or 0% financing in some cases, and just, make the payments. Your money can make those payments for you on a monthly basis, and we'll just allocate the money differently, right? So those are the areas where we will deliver value back to them. But I just always kind of funny. I don't want to sound like that was a bad way of handling a client, but it's I think their question isn't. Again, it's what they say is different than what they really mean. What they're really looking for is, how should I buy the Prius, and what they start off with is, can I? And the answer is that's a little bit different. Like, I mean, can you? You could buy the dealership. Do you want to know how best to do it? That's something completely different, right? And I'm glad you called me for that. So normally those conversations get turned into those. And so the process that we go through, what I was going back on track here, is that we sit here and talk about the discovery of going, what does success look like to you? What does your values look like? And then what are your goals, and how do we prioritize those goals? Because they're all not the same, right? And as soon as I get that better picture, and you notice, and this is at least I think it's funny, and one of my largest clients did something very similar to you, which I've always found that, you're a marketing person, you might be horrified by this, but by hearing this, but I don't think people make buying decisions through the internet, right? So, when they just don't, right? I mean, it's like, some people are like, yeah, you really got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. It's like, yeah, if you were selling a hotel or a vacation, I mean, I've owned a hotel, so I understand, that, you got to have all the SEO, SMO, and you got to have a really good campaign to market it. But, here in Raleigh and other areas, like, people don't make a buying decision by, wow, you got a really cool fancy website or something like that. They buy it differently. And so, but, one of the first questions that somebody came to me, one of our wealthier clients asked was, what's your minimum? And it's like, I don't have minimums. I work with the right types of clients, right, that fit for us going forward. And that was one of her, like, she was like, I love that answer, right? Like, it wasn't about it, how much money. And as I go through this, I'm not asked you, so tell me about the windfall. I don't know. I'm trying to understand whether or not you're the right fit person for me, more so than it's how much money do you have, right? And what are we trying to accomplish? Once we get past the discovery phase of it, of visions and values and goals, and we get into that, and I have a deeper understanding of what that looks like, well, then we dive into, well, what resources do you have to accomplish these goals?
Yeah,
because
let's look at it all,
let's look at it all, because once I look at the resources in its entirety, I come back and go, Kim, you're not going to be able to accomplish all this stuff, or why are you even working anymore? I could get this money to produce X amount of dollars a year. You're only going to live at a certain lifestyle. Are you sure you want to work still? Like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what it looks like until I understand what you're trying to accomplish. And so hopefully today, I know we've carved off an hour to talk about this, get close to that time frame. But to me, I think that, I think that that's really the next step. Certainly call, and I can certainly give you other folks down here. I mean, this is, I always believe in kind of co-opetition, right? I mean, I could tell you some of the really good money managers down here, and depending on what you're looking for. And if you thought of a criteria and I didn't fit it, and again, you haven't really given me the criteria of the advisor yet, right? I mean, that's, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but is there a criteria you're looking for in an advisor? As from a service standpoint, I try to meet with my clients every quarter.
Okay.
And lots of advisors say that. I'm pretty strict on this. We have a segmenting kind of, all businesses segment in some form or fashion. And there are certain clients that will at least get a telephone call from us. There are certain clients that will, but somebody on our team is going to be having conversations with our clients every quarter. For our larger clients and early clients that come in, a lot of the times in the first year or so, we are meeting face-to-face or in person with a very structured format. And that very structured format normally, here's the things that we've accomplished so far, okay? Here's the things that are outstanding. And here's what we need to do to accomplish the things that are outstanding and move forward. That normally starts off almost every meeting in the early stages. So, and then, we normally go into, we're real big on, we use a lot of technology to help aggregate information. Like, I can still work with clients. I mean, one of my larger clients is was a former CEO of Alltel, which got bought by, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, and then got bought by Verizon. And so I was with him during both of those transactions. And when I talked to him, about, hey, do you want to transfer all of your money over to Vision Quest? The answer is that he's got relationships that helped him make that money. Goldman Sachs, right, where he's got money there right now. So he's not going to give you every penny of it. But if I look him in the eye and go, and maybe this is what you're saying, and go, do you trust Goldman Sachs with your money? He's like, absolutely not. I'm so glad you got eyes on it. It's just kind of like, he's like, I know that their interest isn't in the same as mine, right? Like, so it's, he's hiring me really as that personal CFO, not as a money manager, right? And so understanding the criteria of what you're looking for in an advisor is very, very important. And I can certainly help you to that, but I think that there's a level of, I have a bias, right, of what and it's why I created the company. Like, for me, I created the company because, I feel that those larger firms, the ones that we work with, when you manufacture and build a product, it's very difficult for you to be independent and objective. So,
and I found that that's the case with what's my current situation. And, when you ask what am I looking for in a financial advisor, I guess, the broad answer really is I'm looking for some more personal service, because this is such a period of flux for me, that I'm looking for someone that can take that can be sort of a CFO, and give me the right direction. But I don't need to have a prospectus mailed to me like every couple of months just so I can review it. Like, that's not really necessarily going to help me. I need to have a conversation with someone, or I need to meet someone face to face and have them understand the other things that you're seeing exactly. I like what you're saying, because you're saying exactly what I was trying to say, is that this is one aspect of multiple things going on, in my life, and I want to be able to have a money manager that has that personal knowledge, but also just that familiarity that I can say, hey, I need this, or I need to change this to this because this isn't working for me, or I want to change jobs completely. And so I'm looking for that personal service more than anything. And then, with the immediate needs for me are, by the end of the summer, I'm going to be relocating, and I'll be renting an apartment and then looking to buy something. So I've got that, 90 days from now is certainly different than where I am right now. And, for that, the success to me, I guess, is really this period where I'm transitioning from, a financial dependent situation into an independent situation. And, luckily or unluckily, I have a certain amount to start with, which is good. But there wasn't, like I said at the beginning, this wasn't a legal, it wasn't a marriage. So there were some, it's a whole other story. But anyway, suffice it to say that this is the outcome of of where what I have had going on in my life for the last several years. So that's where I am, and I think you're right with the value is that it is for me the financial independence, but also security that I can utilize what I have and be secure in that and not have to worry that something's going to happen to it or anything. That's sort of where I am. I like hearing what you're saying about how you're structuring this because I actually wrote it down and I'm taking my own notes for myself, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So I appreciate you kind of walking me through this process.
Well, good. Well, why don't you think about what we talked about today? I'd love to continue conversations if you think it's a good fit, and it sounds like that, what I've talked about, does sound like a good fit. And then we certainly can reconnect and talk a little bit more about, how we would proceed going forward. So
I'd like that.
Do you want to send me sometimes, or would you prefer me to send you sometimes? Or I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to kind of go through your process too, so I don't want to put any pressure on you. Do you want to reach back?
Let me reach back out to you. I'll be traveling next week and part of the week after, but I'll probably be. I'm actually going to be down in Raleigh in June, and hopefully putting together a clearer picture of what I have going on. But I'd love to maybe touch base with you in like the next couple weeks and see if it makes sense to keep going down the same road. And I'll probably have some more questions for you, maybe more specific questions.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'll have some more for me. So that would be great.
Okay. Okay, well, that sounds good.
Okay. So
I'll wait to hear from you.
I'll send you.
June is a good time.
I think June is like next week. So. I'll be traveling next week, and it's also the beginning of Memorial Day weekend, so I'm heading out to the Hamptons for a little while. And then I'll be back, and I'll be back the first week of June. So, or I'll be back after Memorial Day weekend, and maybe we could talk that week or something. Or would that make sense?
Sounds good. The only week that I'm not going to be here is June. I leave on a Sunday, June 11th through I think that Friday, which I think is the 16th or something like that. I'm going to be gone.
Okay.
That week I will not be here.
Okay.
I still will be able to be. I'll be out of the country, but I'll still have access to. We get to talk by phone. We just wouldn't be able to meet in person. So.
Okay.
But if you're.
Would you? So are you available? Are you around the week of? I guess that would be the week of May 30th. I guess that would be the or the June.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That would maybe if I'm. I might be down there on the 1st or the 2nd. So.
So we can definitely meet then. That would be great.
Okay.
So,
all right. That was okay.
You just shoot me sometimes, and we'll meet face to face then. Okay.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you so much, Steve.
Right.
I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You take care.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.